heard the story a long time ago. Well, actually, I found it a long time ago, and I've been telling it for a long time, the last 10 years or so, but I haven't recorded it. I'm going to try it this afternoon at Triple Spiral, and I wanted to re-rehearse it here, so I captured it. It comes from northwest Canada stroke America, and it's from the Tlingit people. And this is a story, it's actually part of a much larger myth, but I'll tell my bit of it, which I know. A man had 4 sons. 3 were great hunters. They brought many salmon and many bear and all sorts of provisions back to the village. They were great men, they were hunters, they were well regarded in the village. But the fourth was small and, to be frank, really lazy. He spent his whole time just lying by the fire, daydreaming, staring up into the sky. He lay there so long that his clothes, and indeed his face, became ashy and grey and really dirty. His eyes became completely bloodshot from the dust that got into them. The local kids used to laugh at him and kick a bit of soil at him, but he didn't move. He didn't even say anything when they started calling him Ash, which was not his name, but Ash stuck. He became Ash. He'd been there for so long. So long. Now one day, the local village had a message from a nearby village over the hills that they were challenging the village to a wrestling match, and they would send their best wrestler to wrestle the champion of the village. Now Ash's brothers, all of them said to the village chief, I am the best wrestler, I am the best hunter, I am the man you want. And the chief said, I know, let's just see what comes, shall we? And indeed, on the morning of the challenge, they all stood out, waiting to see which wrestler the village had sent. Because no one had seen any wrestlers up at the other village and thought it strange. And then they started to hear something, a lot of crashing and banging. And they started seeing bushes being thrown in the air and trees being knocked down. And they thought, that's strange, is it a bear? And then they realised it wasn't a bear, but it was a bear of a man, 2 meters tall, and huge great arms and huge great shoulders, and sort of man with no neck. Who will challenge me? Said this monster of a man as he stomped into the village square. And the chief stood up and said, we have 3 men who would like to give it a go. And he turned round. And Ash's brothers weren't there. Indeed, no one was there. He heard a quivering and a shaking from the huts. Come on, you lot. You wish to fight this man? It's easy. You must, for the honour of the village, come and fight him. I insist. You fight him, said a voice behind him. You fight him. I can't fight him. I'm old and weary, and look at him. Look at him. He's huge. But just then, the chief heard a little voice beside him. I'll fight him. And he looked, and there was Ash, grey and mucky, bloodshot eyes. And the chief, you fight that. Don't be daft. Now get back to your hut or do whatever you do, you lazy good for nothing. But Ash didn't move. And the giant drew himself up and said, come then, fight me, and started stamping towards Ash and the chief. And Ash just took 2 steps forward and 1 step right and grabbed the man's leg and swung him. Once, twice, 3 times. And threw him back to where he came from. Boom. Said Ash, quietly to himself, smiling, turned and went back to where he always was, by the fire, staring up, just thinking. And the chief stood there. What the? But no one in the village believed him when he told him what had happened. This and he run and he boom. Oh, I couldn't believe it. But magic does not like to be ignored. A few weeks later, there was a young woman out collecting berries and foraging in the local hills. And she made her way around, daydreaming to herself, picking blueberries, picking what she could find to take back to eat, provide for the village. She suddenly became aware of a shuffling and a stamping. And at first she thought it was a big bear coming towards her. There were many in the woods, but then she realised, no. The sound is coming from the trees. And she looked around her and realised that the trees were starting to march in great lines down the hills and down the valleys and down towards their village, getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And the woman panicked. They're going towards our village. So she started running as fast as she could, and behind her this great wall of green was coming down. But when she got to the edge of the village, she saw that other people had seen it. These trees stamping their way towards. Oh, there's going to be a war. What is happening? Send for warriors. Send for people to help us. But we don't have anyone, said the chief. We don't have anyone. We do, said a voice beside her. It was Ash. Leave it with me. Ash went to the edge of the village and made his way on top of a great rock. And with a huge booming voice said, Get back! Get back from where you have come from! And the trees all stopped and turned. And in their tens of thousands marched back up into the valleys, into the hills and beyond from where they had come from. And Ash just turned and went back and lay by the fire. The people were astonished. Lucky, they were going to turn anyway. Look, honestly, it can't be that scrap of a lad, that dirty, mucky Ash. What is he doing in our world? I don't know. But magic does not like to be ignored. A few weeks later, there was a young man out fishing in his canoe. Out just beyond the village, and he looked up and he saw something he'd never seen before. the mountains and hills were starting to roll towards the village, and a great big grey and black and mountainous cliff coming crashing to ashing, stones, rocks falling in front, coming down towards the village. Sir, sir, he shouted from the mountain, run for your lives. And the chief felt powerless again as he looked up and thought, what am I to do? And there was Ash, and Ash stood on the rock again and shouted, get back! Get back where you belong! And the mountains and the hills all stopped in their tracks and started to roll slowly back to where they had come from and where they had been for millennia. And this time, the village believed it. It was him. He is magic. He's brought us. We are so safe with him. Now come, Ash. You can do what you want. Lie by that fire. Do whatever you want. And Ash just did that. He lay down by the fire and daydreamed. And people left him alone because they knew if anything else happened, they could call on him with his magic to stop it. And life went on. Peace came to the village. But one evening, just as the sun was about to set, a huge war canoe appeared on the horizon and came flying towards the village. It had 6 warriors in it. 6 warriors, men painted for war, and they had shields and spears. And they pulled on the village, and the villagers thought, what is happening? What is happening? They are mighty men. Are they taking our village? What is going on? But without speaking, they watched as the men made their way up into the village and up towards where Ash always lay. And Ash heard them as they came outside the hut and sat up. I was expecting you, he said to them. And the lead warrior turned to him and said, follow us. We need your help. And Ash stood, dusted himself down a bit, and followed the men back to the canoe, getting in the middle between them. The canoe was pushed out, swung round, and went out towards the setting sun. And as it hit the edge of the setting sun, it started to spiral round and round, round and round and round and round, and then disappeared under the water. And the people screamed, what is... Ash is gone. He's dead. He's dead. But Ash was not dead. The canoe spiraled through the blueness, down and down and down, past the sea lions and fish, and landed on the sandy shore, sandy beach. And the men got out and waved to Ash, follow us. And that is what he did. Through the kelp fields where the fish roamed, the sea lions and occasionally whales would go by. Until, after a few miles, they came to a huge white sandy area, and in the middle of it was lying an old man with great white long hair, and he was lying with his arms out. And on the middle of his chest, going up through the water, was a huge tree. And the old man turned to Ash and said, "You've come. You've come to help." "I have," said Ash. "Only you have the magic in you to hold up the sky. I am too old to do this job, but you have it within you with your magic and powers to hold this. Will you do it for me? Will you do it for the world?" And Ash just nodded. He made his way across to where the old man was lying. And the warriors came up and lifted the tree off the old man. Ash shuffled over in his place and lay his arms on the soil, on the sand. And the tree was placed in the middle of his chest. And as he lay there, all the dirt fell off him. And he became white all over. And his eyes became aquamarine. And the old man said, "Thank you. What will you do while you lie there, holding up the sky?" And Ash smiled and said, "I will just think and be." That is my story.